Chapter 1. Your boy doesn't need to wear a skirt, but he does need a good dose of femininity. You, mom, leave an indelible imprint on your child. Here's why. Honey, what's the matter? I asked immediately upon hearing my wife's frantic voice on the phone. I was in my office at the time, and I couldn't even decipher what she was saying at first, since she was crying and nearly hysterical. Immediately, my heart began to race. One of my kids had to be seriously injured, or dead. Finally, my wife blurted out, "It's Kevin!" Oh no, I thought. I asked, did he fall into the pool? It was my worst nightmare coming to life. My 18-month-old son had drowned in our own backyard. "No," Sandy said, more sobs. "It's his tallywhacker." I wasn't sure I'd heard it right. His tallywhacker? "Yeah," she said. "It's purple." Purple? I was really confused now. What happened? Did somebody hit him? "No, he colored it with a magic marker." I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. Little Kevin had always shown a predisposition toward art, but this creative endeavor really beat them all. "What are you laughing about?" Sandy asked, horrified. "Little boys do things like that," I replied. "That's the funniest thing I've ever heard." Sandy didn't see why it was so funny. Boys are always up to something. You see, I knew something Sandy didn't. Boys will keep you on your toes. I'm a prime example. When I was a boy, my mom hated to do my laundry. Who can blame her? She once reached into my pants pocket and got bit. After hearing a blood-curdling scream of, "Kevin!" I came running and fished out the critters from my pocket. I couldn't understand what the big deal was. After all, I'd gone fishing that day and had just forgotten to remove the crayfish, cricket, grasshopper, and 2 salamanders from my jeans. There's no doubt that boys are not girls. Boys do their nails with their teeth. No expensive manicures needed. Most don't think twice about wearing the same t-shirt they wore yesterday, and the day before that, even if it does have a few dirt stains or smell a little rank. Boys spit and burp. They make all sorts of other noises too, like pfft and vroom when their toy planes or cars take off at top speed. They like to crash things and knock their sisters' blocks down. Such acts are a part of their day. They're rarely quiet, but when they are, you better come running to check things out because most likely they're up to something. They whistle at and tease girls when they like them. They might even push girls or try to wrestle them. Most girls simply aren't appreciative of such actions. I ought to know since I tried a few of these moves in my growing up years. What makes boys so different from girls? What makes boys so different from girls, other than the obvious? Researchers in the journal Cerebral Cortex reported a fascinating difference between men and women in regard to the part of the brain that controls visual spatial abilities and concepts of mental space, skills necessary for tasks such as mathematics and architecture. That area of the brain is about 6% larger in men than in women. But does this mean men are smarter? Not necessarily. Men's brains may be larger, but women's contain more brain cells. Also, male and female brains work differently. When men and women perform identical tasks, different areas of their brains light up in response. In addition, females use both hemispheres while male brain activity is restricted to one side. Perhaps that's why you sometimes feel you and your son are on opposite sides of the planet, because you truly are. You're able to bounce from brain hemisphere to brain hemisphere, but he's solidly entrenched in one and can see only that side of the equation without your help. Another good reason God Almighty created both men and women. We need each other in many ways. Men tend to focus on the present and the future, and they like to present possibilities whether they're realistic or not. They are often fast-moving and risk-takers. Contrast that with women who tend to focus on the present and the past due to their relational abilities. And since they use both sides of their brain, they tend to think more realistically and in detail about tasks that need to be done. As a result, they are usually more cautious and less risk-taking. Put the two together and it's easy to see why you and your son will sometimes disagree or even clash. But the more you know about that male critter in your house, the better off you'll be. Boys are competitive. Boys are tough. They're competitive. They say things like, "My dad's stronger than your dad." "Oh yeah? Well, my dad's got really big muscles. The other day You think so? Well, last week my dad..." Or like, "Hey, look at me, I can swing higher." "Oh yeah? I can hang upside down." "Well, me too." Notice all the I and me, my language that boys use. Now, why is that? From the very beginning of their lives, little boys are primed for independence, and that independent edge only grows stronger as they grow older. Boys are risk-takers who don't want anyone else to get ahead of them in life. They've got a drive to be number one and in the fast lane. They're born competitive. They go after what they want with determination. That's why you'll rarely find guys like me in the slower right-hand lane of the expressway. We're always the ones zooming to the outside lane to see how far ahead we can get of the next sucker. Now my wife? She waits patiently in her lane to get to wherever she wants to go. For boys, it's not just the thing that counts. It's the size of the thing. That's why if a fourth-grade boy gets a skateboard, his buddy has to get one too. But it has to be bigger and badder. That's why the junior high locker room is a difficult and embarrassing place to be. I know about that too. My skinny white body with its sole chest hair wasn't much competition for the boys who already looked like men in every way. And they didn't cut me any slack. Boys get bored fast. Within the heart of every boy is an adventurer. Boys like to be on the move. I can hear some of you saying, "You can say that again, he never stops." They have wildly different attention spans than girls. They prefer to look at objects for shorter time periods, but they are more active in their attention to that object. Boys are physical beings. They're attracted to the physical. They're not into talking about the details. They're scoping out the details. The way a toy is built, the way a computer runs, or the cute waitress at IHOP. Boys are more intense and tightly wired, and they're bored much more quickly. Their brains move more rapidly from object to object, which means they can often get the full scope of a project more quickly than girls. But they also take in less sensory information than girls, so they can miss things along the way. That means boys sometimes misinterpret what someone says because they don't take the time to process both the verbal and the physical cues to see if that person really means what they're saying. That's why sarcastic comments such as, "Well, it's about time you took out the trash," are lost on boys. So why not save your own emotional energy and just ask your son in a straightforward manner to take out the trash now? What this mom did right. Ben Carson grew up in abject poverty. He was the son of Sonia, who had dropped out of high school in the 3rd grade and married when she was only 13. She and her husband divorced when Ben was only 8, and Sonia cleaned houses, among numerous other jobs, to provide for Ben and his older brother. When Ben was in 5th grade, he was at the bottom of his class. His mother was determined that both her sons would have a good start in life, in spite of their situation, so she took action. She especially wanted them to be good readers, whether they wanted to be or not. Each week she had her sons read 2 books and write reports on them. This wasn't part of their regular schoolwork, but something extra she assigned to them. Ben was in 6th grade when he found out something intriguing. His mother was basically illiterate. She could barely read the reports her sons turned into her. But she didn't let anything stop her from encouraging her sons to succeed. Today, Dr. Ben Carson is the top pediatric neurosurgeon, among other roles at Johns Hopkins University. Boys are singularly focused. When you throw any new information your boy's way, you'll most often hear that famous word, "Huh? Does this mean your boy is ignoring you? Or that he is completely clueless?" No, it means he's deeply focused on the world of whatever he's thinking about, and he isn't able to change his thought track as fast or as often as you can. He's solving a problem, and he can only handle one problem at a time. But no doubt about it, the problem will be solved. Males are wired to be singularly focused. When they're doing a task, they're doing just that task, not thinking up their to-do list for the rest of the day like you are. To say that males aren't multitaskers is the understatement of the century. But Mom, that's why they need you in their world. I am king, hear me roar. Within the heart of every little boy is the need to be king, to conquer and to be the one in charge, to be the one who figures everything out by himself. The lone hero standing on top of the highest rock, sword in hand. It's why even grown-up men don't ask for directions. They want to figure it out by themselves. It's the challenge of the hunt that drives them. They have the capacity to stop and ask for directions, but they don't want to. They're primed to do the task and believe they can get the job done, even if it's not their natural bent. So why should he need your help, even if you've been driving in circles for an hour and your suggestion to stop is a good one? That's male thinking, as exasperating as it might be to you. Your son wants to conquer the task, and he doesn't want your help, at least right now. Let him get a little more desperate first. It's why your 6-year-old boy tried to take apart your toaster without your knowledge. He wanted to figure out how it worked. It's why your 14-year-old is in the living room stomping around. He can't figure out the directions to his new computer game, and he's not about to ask for help. But if you give him a little time to cool down, he'll most likely retackle the task with gusto and figure it out himself. If not, his emotions will have calmed enough that he may even consider asking for help. From Dad, the computer guru, or Frank, the next-door neighbor game whiz. Boys have the need to be in control and to stay in control. They also have the innate drive to stay on top of the manure pile of life. It's why they work hard and they play hard. Life belongs to those who get there first, who work hard, who are the fastest, and who stay on top, boys are primed to think. And they're determined to be the conqueror, the winner. That's why your son is likely to tell you about what has gone well for him, at school, in the gym, at work, but isn't as likely to tell you when things go wrong. Doing so goes against his competitive, conqueror-driven nature. Such an attitude can serve your son well in school, in his career, and in life, but without the balance you bring to the equation, it can be harmful to his relationships. Your son's number one woman. Guess who? Every tough, risk-taking boy needs a good dose of femininity. No, I'm not talking about getting in touch with his feminine side. For the past several decades, society has been working hard to redefine men's roles and to emphasize the sensitive man, who is supposed to enjoy cuddling and talk fests, and basically act like a girlfriend would. But is that really who you want your son to be? A girlfriend? Or do you want him to be a real man? One who is determined, honorable, and goal-oriented, but also loving and thoughtful toward the women in his life. Frankly, I'm sick of getting in touch with my feminine self. I like the masculine part just fine, thank you very much. I like channel surfing. I won't apologize for thinking that sex and football are two of the Almighty's and man's greatest inventions, respectively. I don't go to Tupperware parties. I won't eat quiche. I'm comfortable with my testosterone. I like eating with plastic forks or no forks at all. I don't need a napkin to complete my meal. Yet anyone who knows me would tell you that this tough guy has a very tender heart toward all his children and his wife, and he is very thankful for all the strong women in his life who are more capable in certain areas than he is. Are you comfortable with your son? Do you affirm his maleness? More than anything, your son needs for you to appreciate him as a boy and encourage the masculine qualities you want him to have. In today's world, some moms are more concerned with increasing a male's sensitivity toward the female population than with affirming male qualities. But such tactics don't really produce the results moms want. Instead, they create confusion, and confused sons tend to make terrible, traumatic choices. Is it okay to do girly things? If a boy has an older sister like I did, it's only natural for him to sometimes have pretend tea or play with dolls. But there's a huge difference between being comfortable with girls and always wanting to act like a girl. No woman wants a sissy for a son. She wants a tough, resilient man who will stand up for others with firm resolve and gentle compassion, and who will have a fierce protective love and understanding heart for those close to him. Helping your son develop clearly defined gender roles will produce such a mature adult. But it all starts with you, Mom. In all my years of counseling families and speaking to literally millions of people through radio, television, and seminars, one fact has impressed me as much as anything else. It's the child's relationship with the parent of the opposite sex that is most important in families. That means the mother-to-son relationship and the father-to-daughter relationship. For more on this one, see my book, What a Difference a Daddy Makes. Mothers leave an indelible imprint on the lives of their sons. Their sons may leave home, graduate from college, get married, and have children of their own, but they'll never stop being mommy's boy. Although it might be natural to think that the man in your son's life, your husband, your ex-husband, the man who fathered your child, or your boyfriend, would have the most influence on him since they're both males, the opposite is true. You influence your son directly and have a much greater impact on the man he will become. Mothers shape their sons in ways so profound that many men live with their mom's unwritten rules imprinted on them. That means your son's relationship with you, more than any other relationship, will affect the way he relates to all other females in his life, including bosses, co-workers, subordinates, sisters, wife, and daughters. How you treat him and think of him, and how he treats you and thinks of you, is the key to how he will treat all other females. That means you, Mom, have the edge in picking your own someday daughter-in-law. A man's marriage says far more about his relationship to his mother than it does about his relationship to his father. You as the mom bring certain qualities and characteristics to the parenting task. If you're married, your testosterone-toting husband brings an entirely different perspective and approach. He may be a lot tougher on your son than you are because he expects more out of him, especially if your son is a firstborn. And you may be a lot more tender. Sometimes the reverse is true, though it's not as likely, since Mama Bear is always protective of her cubs. If you're a single parent and you're trying to be mom and dad, there's good news. You don't have to be both. What a relief, huh? Just be his mom, and you can heap blessings on him for a lifetime. For more on that, see Chapter 10. The more you understand about this unique mother-son relationship, the better you'll be able to help repair a damaged heart or strengthen an already healthy relationship both now and in the future.